What's up, everybody? Clinton Fauché here, and
I'm Albert Chavez.
And this is Front Porch Chronicles, and today we have an OG, Mr. Jose Shorty Torres. Thank you so much, brother, for being on here. I love watching your Instagram. One of the realest guys out there. We've had a couple of your teammates, Nicholas Mata on, Augie on, and whenever I saw you trained with them, I immediately reached out, slid in the DMs, and was like, bro, what do we need to do to get you on here? Much respect. You always been a real one, and you get massive respect from me.
Well, I appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much for having me on the show. And so you had Augie on the show before me.
Yeah, we did.
Torres here, and
Look,
you just get somebody like, man, these guys keep backing out. Whatever.
It's funny. We went to, so I, with RDA and all of those guys, Dede Paneras is a good friend of mine. So Team Nova Uno, we went through, and Nicholas actually reached out first and was like, hey, I'd love to be on there. RDA is, a legend. He's one of my, and so we had him on, and then Augie reached out. And then when I saw you on there, I had followed you already, but I didn't put two and two together with you guys trained together. And when I saw it, I was like, oh, bro, we've got to. So I told him, I was like, we've got to get this guy on here. So I'm super stoked. So with that, I know you trained with one of the GOATs, Eric Nixick at Extreme Couture. How is it training? Man, like that gym is, and we talked about this with the other guys, is stacked. You, Augie, Nicholas Mata, you got Chris Curtis, you got Dan Igg, you have Sean Strickland.
List on and on, Patrick Nix and this and that. Like it's one of those that like it just keeps on going. The one big difference that because I've been to all the big gyms, American Top Team, Sport, Jackson Wink, and I hate being that guy that like I'm the gym hopper, but it's like, hey, I want to be somewhere 2 years. I feel that there's not much more room for me to grow, because anything when you start, you're just going up. It's like, yo, this is out, picking up new things, and after a while, it's like, okay, this is very repetitive. Cool, let's keep on drilling the same thing, and then after a while, I'm like, all right, no offense, I'm very ADHD. I get bored very fast. Like, all right, cool. So, somewhere else. It's like, thank you for the knowledge, thank you for the experience, and then now just head somewhere else. You want to be a true mixed martial artist, you have to mix it up. And so for me, coming to Extreme, I actually came here by accident. I was, it was kind of like having Augie on the show, like, fine, you can come on in. It was one of those, I was actually trying to hit up Henry Cejudo because he was starting to get popular with training John Jones and training, Figueiredo and all these different guys. So I was like, man, let me go hit up Cejudo. He has a fight coming up. Maybe I can help him for his fight. He can help me for mine, technique-wise. And dude never picked up. I was like, man, I had Calvin Gastelum hit him up. I had like everyone in the gym message him. So I was like, all right, well, I've always wanted to train in Las Vegas. Extreme Couture is there. Let me go to Extreme. I saw Patchy Mix there. At the time, Patchy was the same size as my opponent, and he was a bantamweight as well. So I was like, you know what? Let me, hit him up and come on through. And man, I'm a networking guy, so I know everyone. When I got there, everyone's like, oh, dude, come on in. We'll take care of you. The biggest difference I faced at Extreme Couture that I'm still going through now in a very positive way is everyone. It's such a big gym, but it's also in a sense a private gym. So, for example, like American Top Team, love the gym. You're gonna have easily the best. That's like the Olympic Training Center of MMA. That gym is the biggest MMA gym in the world. It is gigantic. It is huge. It's amazing. The only problem is it's also very cliquey. So you have the Brazilians, you have the Russians, you have the outcasts. And everyone kind of sticks to their own groups. They all kind of have their own coach.
It's like prison.
For sure. You have the dorms upstairs. COVID was kind of like, I live here, but the problem is, when they have 10 high-level coaches, let's say Dustin Poirier or Masvidal or somebody fights, man, they probably just took 6, and then you only have 4 coaches, 4 of maybe 50 people sparring. What's the attention span going to be like? Especially if you're a higher level guy, it's like, and that gym, again, so many coaches. I was like, all right, let me go somewhere else. Here, and they get paid annually. You know, they're not on salary, so that's a whole different concept.
Yeah.
So every coach gets paid. The only problem is they also have to split up their time so much, so it's very minimal what you get. And here at Extreme, the gym is very public, very open. The only problem is, I won't even say problem, but if you want to coach, you have to go out of your way and be like, hey, coach, can you help me? I want, I would pay this or a percentage or whatever. So if you want to get individualized time, you can go out of your way to get that. But at an annual gym, even though the coaches are obviously getting paid annually, they automatically have to split up their time. So it's like, so give and take. So if you want to do this, you do that. If you don't, then you don't. But at Extreme, because everyone, if you want to pay, you pay. If you don't, you don't. Everyone's like, oh, hey, Shorty, can you help me with this? Oh, hey, Patchy, how'd you get this guillotine? And everyone starts like clicking and becoming like a little bit of a brotherhood, where everyone's like, hey, man, like, for example, Augie and I and a guy named Daino here that I'm actually staying at his house, we all ran accidentally 5 miles. And I say accidentally because we planned for 3 and we got lost. Honestly, just looked, and it was funny because I get very stereotypical Augie because he's the white guy. Daino's from Puerto Rico. I'm the Puerto Rican. And we had to climb this fence, and Augie was the last one. I'm like, dude, look at that. This is different. Augie's climbing the fence, the white guy.
He's representing.
Yeah, we're having fun. We're like, yo, what the hell? This is different. Let somebody take a picture, call the police. Yeah,
something nice.
But it was cool because like we're running under highways. Like I'm telling you, we got lost. We're like climbing fences, running like under the highway. It's like, dude, where are we? But it becomes a very group type of thing. So here, me and Augie yesterday were like, hey man, do you want to create a schedule? He fights, sometime in May. I'm hoping to fight sometime in May. So for me, it's like, oh, hey, we're around the same schedule. And so a lot of these guys fight in April, May. Let's create a routine. We don't specifically need a coach. I'm actually flying in a guy from Mexico today. So, we're, fixing things. And also Extreme Couture is really cool with letting people in. So for example, I'm flying in a coach. They're not afraid that this coach is going to take guys and take them to their gym. They're just like, yeah, cool. Just pay his monthly membership and, he's part of the gym for now, So it's a really, really open gym. Plus it's Vegas, dude. Like it's the mecca of MMA. So literally people are in and out. So
all the time. Yeah.
Everyone's just, it's almost like an open relationship. They're like, oh, this guy's joining the party too. All right,
come on in.
Everyone looks down to like, dude, good for you.
Well, it seems like everyone really wants to like grow and learn. I saw you were training Lazy Boy recently in his recent debut. So do you guys tend to like just bounce around then on whoever's fighting next, and then you get to kind of help them cue in on who they're fighting at that point in time?
Yeah, like for example, I've been here a couple times when I first came here, I believe in February, March of last year, Patchy and I were training one-on-one every single day, having a good time. And then my fight ended up being canceled, or I guess inevitably postponed. So I was just like, okay, I don't know what I'm going to be doing here. I might as well go home. And I started thinking about it. I was like, well, Patchy trains 2 more weeks. I was planning on staying here 2 more weeks anyways. Might as well just stay here and help him. So then the camp ended up, filming him and just focusing on him instead of kind of splitting up our time. So everyone gets an individualized time. Again, we kind of make our own little groups, but everyone slowly splits up like, oh, cool. Your fight's a little closer. We're really more focused on you, but your fight's coming up. So we'll, give you some breadcrumbs here and there and then mix it all up. So it's been really cool with everyone going out of their way to genuinely help you out compared to, obviously the coaches that are there. Again, I'm not saying the coaches don't want to help, but they also need to make a living. Mm-hmm. The guys here at the gym, they're like, dude, I was going to be here anyways. You need help? I got you. This is
And what
people genuinely actually want to go out of their way to help.
Yeah, very authentic with you, with Nicholas, with Augie. And I'm one of the reasons, again, that I respect you is you're brutally honest like I am. All 3 of you guys, and I don't know the rest of the people per se in the gym. I didn't go through the roster to see if I know everybody in there. I know a lot of guys, but you guys specifically that I've dealt with, very authentic. And it's not, and in this business, there's people that are in it to make money, and they're a little bit more savagery with it, and it's more so about them. There's your divas. You know, I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but I deal with these guys. I deal with a lot of guys, and so I know how divish people can be, and how, you know, self-centered. So all three of you guys, I can definitely see where that vibe comes from. And the more that I talk to you guys and get to know more about the culture, the more respect that I have, not only for you guys, but for your gym, and what you guys are doing.
Dude, I can tell you this. This was one of the coolest, most genuine experiences. Was I came to Extreme, and everyone has their own little groups, and you hear people speaking Spanish. You're like, okay, where are you from? And then you hear the accent, or you hear like certain slang. You're like, oh, Mexican. Or whatever the case may be. And I'm half and half. I'm Mexican, Puerto Rican. So like, obviously for me, I pick it up a little bit more. I'm like, oh, hey, what's up? And just start mixing it up. You're Puerto Rican, you're Mexican, having fun. And there's a group up here from upper management that's all Mexican. They're all from Mexico. They send them up here. And really cool group, man. It's like one fighter house. It's almost like a reality show. It's like one fighter house, and then they all drive a one car, super Mexican, with like 10 people in a 5-person car. They train, they kill each other, and then they come on back and start cooking for each other. Like, it's super like friendly. Like, they have one bedroom that's like, I think 4 bunk beds or 3 bunk beds in a room, and so it's like 6 or 8 dudes in one room.
Yeah.
It's like a military thing. They're like, oh yeah, cool, good night. We're waking up to go work tomorrow morning. And I remember I came into the gym the first time I was here, and that's when I met Lazy Boy. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like, oh, you're Mexican. And I could tell he was lost, a whole different country, doesn't speak any English, and he needed stuff. And I was like, all right, cool. Let me help this guy out. I have a sponsor, or I have a foundation. I sponsor kids, and I want to be able to help some people. And this, at the time, I think he's like 22, 23. And so I'm taking him places, doing this. The funny thing is I have a bike. So at the same time, he thought I was like a struggling fighter. He didn't know who I was.
Yeah.
So he's like, you got a bike, dude? Put it in my truck. I'll take you home and this and that. And I'm just like, literally, we thought we were both struggling, and we're both trying to help each other out. Then my fight got canceled. And I promised him, I was like, dude, I'd love to go to Mexico. Excuse me. I was like, I'd love to go to Mexico, help you out. And then he had a fight in Guadalajara. So I went down to his last Lux fight, I didn't coach him, but I commentated the fight. And I'm like screaming stuff out like Daniel Cormier. I was like, what he needs to do, And he's, he won the fights. I'm like, oh, awesome. Come back. We run into each other again, and we keep on training. Now I'm getting more close to the upper management group, all the Mexicans down there, and they're all super, super friendly. And then he's like, hey, man, I'd like you to help me out in Mexico. And some people here didn't want to go to Mexico for the month, life, whatever, girlfriend, job. And me, I have a little bit more free life. So I was like, yeah, dude, I'll go with you to Mexico for a month. Go down there. I'm the only one that goes, and from the States at least. Stay down there. Every single person in Mexico went out of their way to help Lazy Boy. Like, there's a guy named Facto. I don't know how much he charged. It was like maybe $100 a week. And he did pads with Lazy Boy, I think, at least 6 times a week.
Wow.
And would drive. I don't know if you ever seen Mexico City traffic. Mexico City is like the 6 or 7.
Brutal. It's like LA. Yeah.
Oh, it's way worse. Go, dude. Like, if you get, actually, there's a rule from what they told me. They go, if you get hit by a car here, you better hope you run or you die. Because let's say you run over my foot. They have to pay your medical fees for almost the rest of your life, for the most part. So it's like, they rather just finish the job.
Yeah.
So like, these guys, they just go. So dude, the people here went out of their way. Like, they love, I think it's just the Mexican blood and Mexican support. Like, they love Mexicans, and whatever they're doing so much is ridiculous. Like, a lot of these guys came up, and you can tell they wanted help, and some of them got them, but they're like, dude, if I don't get help and he makes it to the top of the mountain, screw it. At least one of us did. Like, that's their mindset. They're like, if I got to jump off this cliff to help him for whatever reason, sounds dumb, but if it helps him, I'll do it. And little you know, this kid gains, after his one win in the UFC, I think it was the second or third fight in UFC, which again, it's not prelims or the main card. It's like UFC Fight Pass prelims.
Yeah.
he gained 250,000 followers.
Oh wow.
That's how genuine these people are when it comes to supporting each other. Like that is freaking amazing compared to me in the States. And you guys obviously know being here is a lot of people will help you until they can't use you anymore.
That's what I was gonna say. It's not even really that they're helping you, it's that they're helping themselves by using you. That's
how I word it. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
But they can't use you anymore. If there's no benefit, then to them it's like, oh, dude, it's time, it's money. It's like
an excuse.
This and that, but dude, you know, like I talk about it now where, man, I've had people that I've worked with that always have helped me out for free, this and that. I've always said I'm going to try my best to pay it back and do certain things if I got to pay you one day for sure. But then you make it, and some people now are like, yeah, I see you driving this. I want to be able to have this, and it's like, what happened to helping me out?
Right.
Or the vice versa, where I always think it's very weird, especially in the States, that when you have no money, people want to take everything, but when you have a ton of money and a ton of followers, people want to give you everything. And it's like, how does that work? Well, wait, I needed stuff and you didn't want to help me, but now I have everything. You want to give me more. It's like,
it's because they want you. They want you to get them back in return when you have all that money too. It's weird. It's self-serving.
So let me ask you a question. I know you're originally from Chicago, correct? So, growing up in Chicago or coming up, how was it growing up in Chicago as a kid? Is it the savagery that they make it out to be? So I've got a couple of really good friends. My shout out Carlos Lemos and Jamil Fakri. They run Gracie Baja up there. But is it the savagery they talk about?
It depends on what neighborhood you're from. So Chicago is one of the most segregated cities in the world. I think Milwaukee actually tops it. But basically, my neighborhood is all Mexican. The next neighborhood is going to be all black. The next neighborhood is going to be all, Asian or Chinese or and it just like literally splits up. Like, for example, you think all Latinos stick together. No. Like, you stay on your side, we'll stay on. So my neighborhood's all Mexican. Where my dad grew up was all Puerto Rican, Humboldt Park. It's all different, just no matter what. So, like, if you want to get the best food, you go to this neighborhood. Well, you also have to look at it. This is why Chicago has some of the best food in the world. Random tangent, but like, for example, Mexicans. What are we known for? Mexican food. So, or tacos. If we want to get more stereotypical. So you go to that neighborhood. There'll maybe be 3 or 5, taquerias on one block. The only problem is only 2 can survive. So literally the best survive.
Yeah.
So
True.
automatically. And the fans will tell the truth. They're like, I don't like this food anymore. I like it.
Yeah.
So I had a very different lifestyle. My dad was a gang leader. I grew up in a trap house, so we sold drugs.
He was Puerto Rican. Your father was Puerto Rican, or your mother? The reason I say is because I know the difference. One of my best friends is Puerto Rican. He's from New York, and so it's funny how being those two is odd, because Puerto Ricans, when you say, "Hey, are you Mexican?" like, it's highly offensive to Puerto Rican. Like, they get super offended. Like, so we always joke stereotypical. My friend that's Puerto Rican, he's like, "Oh, what's up, Aryan Nation?" Yada yada. I'm like, "What's up, Mexican?" And he's like, "Dude, I hate you." Like, every time.
It's like calling a Dominican guy black.
Yeah.
It's like, I was like, "Oh, dude, you're pretty dark."
Yeah.
But yeah, man, so my lifestyle was very different. My only rule, I could do whatever I wanted to growing up. I didn't even have to come home. My only rule was don't bring the cops home.
Yeah.
So I couldn't bring friends over, even if, let's say, my uncle decided to visit. It's blood, it's family.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, come on. No, I'd get my ass kicked. My dad's like, "Dude, we sell drugs in this house. Like, we're not letting anyone in. I don't care if it's my best friend. I don't care if it's, unless they live here, they can't come in." So that was the automatic rule, except for one time. I remember being sick. I didn't come home from school, or I didn't go to school. And I don't know, my dad walks downstairs and he like peeks his head and he's like, "Hey, you got guests." I'm like, I feel like I'm about to get my ass kicked.
Yeah, you're like, where's it coming?
Or like 3 girls like walk down the stairs because I think I was in middle school. I had one girlfriend. She brought like 2 of her friends over to like come hang out with me, and I was just like, oh, so I can have girls over.
So growing up in that, what age did you know, or did you kind of always know, like, hey, fighting is what I want to do? Because the difference, I tell people this all the time, the difference, I grew up like you and kind of Augie being from St. Louis. I grew up in the hood. So I grew up in a prison household. My uncle, who I'm named after, he took a prison sentence for my mom and dad, and my uncle got arrested for drug trafficking. I think it was like 80 pounds of weed. My uncle took the charge. So my mom was like 7 months pregnant with me. So to reward him, they named me after him, which is my first name. So I grew up in that. He got paroled, I think, when I was like 5 or 6. I don't know how, what, when, where, why, but I grew up in that. So I always kind of knew. But then, I grew up so I fought in the streets. Everybody knew, and I was a white dude that hung out in the hood. So they were like, this white boy is insane, being over here where he ain't supposed to be. So I got tried by the tough white dudes and by every black dude because I was in the projects. And so, but when I finally decided, hey, I want to try out MMA, I'll never forget. I was like, okay, look, there ain't many people that can get with me. And then I stepped in there and I caught that first leg kick. And I was like, what in baby? I had to look down because I was like, did this dude pull out a hatchet and like hit me while I wasn't looking? But going back to what age did you know, or did you kind of always know?
Hell, even still today, I'm like, one more fight. We'll see what happens. So I don't like fighting. It just so happened to be my dad wanted me to get into because of just the background we grew up in.
Yeah.
And I also enjoyed Dragon Ball Z, Power Rangers, Ninja Turtles, because those were my role models. No offense to my father or brother at the time, but they couldn't be my role models. If not, I was going to end up like them. So my mom literally would take me away. And it's like, no, you're going to karate. I see the energy. You're going to this. You're going to whatever sport. So I've been in sports since I was a little kid. So in my head, I was like, I'm going to be a professional something. I have to be in sports. Or when I know when I got to high school, I was like, I think I'm going to be a gym teacher. I like this. The guy's, I wouldn't say a role model depending on the gym teacher, but he was always like, all right, cool, we're playing some sports. It was like the fun dad, you know? It was like that guy that's like, oh, cool, like this is the one I want to hang out with. So for me, I was like, man, I'll be a gym teacher. I get to motivate people, keep them healthy, have some fun. But when I got to college, I started doing certain things in wrestling, and I was always training, no matter what. I started to travel the world, started doing different things amateur wise, became an All-American wrestling, and people were like, "Yeah, you should be a fighter. You should do this." I was like, I don't know. We'll figure it out. And then when I graduated college, I won the second world championships as amateur. I was the first person ever to do it. And so this is before like Muhammad Mokaev and other people. So I was like, all right, let me try pro. And I ended up going overseas, and I was in a group of people with Frankie Edgar, Khabib Nurmagomedov, Islam Makhachev, all these high level guys. And one day I was actually planning on joining ONE FC. I was going to go to Malaysia. I was going to move to Malaysia, try to join ONE FC, because if you move out there, it's cheaper for them. It's more convenient. So I was like, oh, I'll move to Malaysia. I got this possible like government job already kind of set up. This is great. I'll be a personal trainer, and also obviously being able to train and get trained. But with that, I was like, oh, I'll join ONE because UFC started doing the whole Reebok sponsorship. And me as an amateur, I made tons of money off of sponsorships.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go pro to lead up to this where I can't get money. I think Brendan Schaub was one of those guys that complained. He's like, dude, I make almost 100,000 on sponsorship alone, more than my fights. And now you're telling me I have to make only 6,000 per fight now. So I agreed with it. I was like, yeah, I'm going to go to Malaysia. That somehow didn't end up working out, but I'm in this small group training with these guys. And Khabib, after like sparring practice, he's like, who wants to keep on drilling? And I was just like, I don't care. Like, I'll go with you. I'll have some fun. And I'm a Energizer bunny. So literally, I'm the only one to go. So me and Khabib are going back and forth, having fun. He's letting me obviously do some stuff to him.
Yeah.
And now wrestling live, but on the wall. And my manager, who's my manager now, Lex McMahon, came up to like people was like, who the hell is this kid? You know, like who's this little guy, you know, 23 years old with Khabib? Like, does he know who Khabib is? And I'm just like I don't care. You know, Frankie Edgar gives me a good word, and other people give me a good word because I've known them for a little bit. And little I know, I got signed to Titan immediately. So I got signed to a higher level, you know, pro promotion immediately instead of doing the local stuff. And then, you know, became 2-weight class champion, you know, first champion at 3-0, second weight class at 5-0, and then just started doing different things. And that was my avenue to the UFC. So it was crazy. But I have a fun question for you.
Yeah.
When did you know that your lifestyle growing up wasn't the norm?
I'll tell you, this is gonna blow your mind. I'm 46 years old. It took me 43 years. I was completely oblivious. I think when you come from chaos and you come from trauma and you come from the savagery that I came from, and when I share my testimonial or when I share stuff, people are like, bro, it's you should write a book. Like I've seen people get murdered. I've seen some pretty traumatic stuff. And I never really knew though, because in your mind, you never feel normal because you try to think to yourself, like, does this make sense? But in your mind, because you don't know any different, you try to rationalize everything. And I had I never was into drugs or alcohol. I was into women. So that was my, yeah, that and fighting. That was my vices. And I'll tell you, I went through a divorce and I was like, dude, there's got to be a reason why I'm attaching to toxic women. And it broke me down, and I went to therapy. And when I went to therapy, I unearthed things that I had been sexually assaulted by a family member as a kid. And when I went through that and I started unlocking all of these traumas that I didn't even I had no idea that I had.
Out of your mind.
Yeah, bro. I had what they call self-induced amnesia, to the point of I had to go to EMDR to even be able to remember. But when I started realizing these things, it brought me peace, because then I could put to the picture. And my therapist was like, hey, does it make sense now? And I'm like, well, what? And she goes, you've slept with hundreds of women. You got 5 kids that we know of by 3 different women. I've got 3 Latinas, 1 black, 1 white kid. You've done, I know, right? Not United Nations. So when you say stereotypes, I got them all in my house. But with that being said, once I started looking at, she's like, you're a fighter, you're doing, and I'm like, well, what is the point? And she said, you were trying to prove your manhood by all of these toxic, what we call manly behaviors, because you were sexually assaulted as a kid and you were taught to be sexualized, and you were taught. So honestly, it took me 43 years, but once I did that and I was able to unearth those things, I was able to realize how jaded my brain was to everything else. And it allowed me to be better as a man, but even bigger, it made me as a father go out of my way, that all of those toxic traits that were passed down to me, all of that toxicity that I saw, I make sure that I don't pass any of that down, and that my kids know that they're loved, protected, wanted, needed. Because I can tell you, I know from you the same thing growing up. You probably didn't feel all of those things, and you were trying to fill that void through relationships.
well, everyone's very different on how they like the whole hero persona versus villain persona.
Yeah.
I didn't have, so the villain persona is and nobody can have it compared to I didn't have this. The hero persona is like, I'm going to try to make sure that everyone has this because I did it. So for me, I was always like, oh, well, I want to be the role model. I want to be this. I want to be that because I didn't receive so many things. Like, you know, I try to be as honest as possible because I didn't really receive the truth. And you know,
truth.
So I didn't realize that I had a different life until I was maybe like 19 or 20 because I was always in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Like you don't know you're in this bubble until you leave the bubble. You're like, oh, no one else sells drugs. Oh, my bad. Yo, back in the day, everyone's like, hey, man, where can I buy weed? I'm like, you don't got weed accessible to you every single day. I'll buy that for you, you know? So it was very different. So, or even for example, Chicago, everyone, if you stare at somebody, like if you stare more than like 3 seconds, everyone's like,
yeah, he tells me all the time. It's different.
Yeah, it's like, dude, what is your problem? You know, and now it becomes a fight. Like, I don't even know you. Maybe, and now the funny thing is, I keep on forgetting that I have purple hair. So people obviously are staring at me, and I'm just like, dude, what's your problem? Oh, that's my bad. that was my fault. That was my fault.
It took me forever. I moved to Orange County, California 7 years ago. My brother was a Marine, and he got moved out here. He said, hey, can you come help me? Same thing. I'm from Montgomery, Alabama. If somebody looks at you longer than 3 seconds, either they're plotting to rob you or there's some sort of beef. They've been sent to do something to you or whatever. So like, I have to be overly aggressive with you before you get aggressive with me, because if not, I'm catching a shot to the back of the head. But it took me forever. And I tell him all the time, sometimes he'll be like, why are you looking? I'm like, dude, I have to watch to make sure people are outside striking distances. I have to make sure all of these extra things.
So was it hard? Good.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to ask you.
It's just funny that, like, you're saying you do certain things. Like, I'm always looking behind, or I always have my back towards the wall. Like, even right now, I have accessibility to every single door. Like, my dad was always because we never really went out to eat, but if we did, he was always afraid like somebody was gonna see him, start a fight, whatever, try to kill him, like crazy stuff. So for me, it was always like, all right, cool. I know my avenues of exits. I know how to get in, get out. I know like this is a way out, or at least a way to, like pause some things for a certain amount of time, So it's crazy how like I'm always like, all right, cool, my phone's right there just in case I gotta get up and run. So I travel a lot, especially in the States. And when I'm traveling, I'll go run outside, and that's how I learn the neighborhoods pretty quick. But I'll run outside and people are like, dude, you're not nervous? Like, you're in this neighborhood. It's dark out. I'm like, you're cute. I was like, they're like, you don't even like run looking behind here. I was like, yeah, this neighborhood's not dangerous. Like you can kind of semi tell for the most part. But when I was in Mexico, obviously it's a very different.
Oh yeah, different. Yeah.
But I'm the same way as you. Like, I like to get out, women, this and that, stuff like that. And man, I remember Lazy Boy after his fight. I'm like, well, my job's done. I can go out and party and hang out with people and do this. I disappeared for like 4 days, and like somehow every time I was home, Lazy Boy wasn't home, and every time and so we always somehow missed each other. And I didn't really reply back to the group text because it usually never had.
You're doing your thing, yeah.
For a couple of days, they're like, dude, where's Shorty? And I never looked at it because I'm like, it's not about me, And I was grabbing some stuff, changed, and I was leaving the house, and Lazy Boy's coming in, and he's like, Shorty, you're alive. Oh my gosh. You didn't take you, dude. I thought you were dead. I'm just like, oh no, I'm good. Because, dude, there was one night, because they would hear stories, but not hear it from me because I was gone.
Yeah.
And, dude, we heard you were at this bar. I was like, I guess so. I don't know. I ended up at a bar yesterday. They're like, dude, that's one of the most dangerous bars in the city. And that's all the way across town. Like, that's at least 40, 50 miles away. And I'm like, I don't know. They're like, how'd you get home? I don't know. I got in somebody's car and I ended up over here. This is like, was it an Uber? I was like, oh, no. I wasn't.
It was not an Uber.
Like, somehow, like, and let me tell you how crazy Mexico is. For example, we went to Karate Combat.
Yeah.
And I know the president, I know Dean Thomas, the commentator, I know everyone there for the most part. So I'm sitting there having a good time. I got the VIP tickets. I'm right next to the pit. And I invited one of Lazy Boy guys is like out. He's a videographer. So I was like, hey man, do you want to come with me? He's like, yeah, I've never been. So we sit at the pit. He's like, are you sure we can sit here? I was like, yeah, man, we're good. This is he's from like, the ghetto of Veracruz. So I'm just like, yeah, man. And so I gave him some stuff. So he looks nice and clean and, he looks fit, but he's a very tall, but very skinny guy. Like if you look like you can hug him and break him. Like, so he's not intimidating, but you're like, who the hell is this guy sitting at the pit? Now me, purple hair. Okay. Maybe he's a celebrity. I don't know. I don't know if that's Mike Perry or Calvin Gastelum, but it's somebody. So me, I sit down, but I go, hey man, take my seat, sit there, enjoy the show. I'm going to be walking around because I'm a social butterfly. I'm too ADHD to sit down too much. And so I'm meeting and greeting everyone, meeting new people, saying hello to everyone, Boss Root and all these guys. And this is how crazy Mexico is. Somebody, I guess, stepped on like my friend's shoes. His name is Fer. Mm-hmm. And so they stepped on his shoes. And so he turns around to see like, what's up? They don't know who he is. But he's sitting next to Alex Pereira, Boss Rutan is on this side, all these big time celebrities. And like, you can tell some of them are like cartel are sitting there. And so they step on his shoe. He turns around and they look at him. They're like, brother, I'm sorry. We don't know who you are and what you do, but I am so sorry. I apologize to you. Do you want us to buy you a drink? Like just for like an accidental, like step on the shoe trying to walk by because they thought he was cartel.
Oh shit.
Like automatically, like they just don't want to like mess with anybody because they don't know what's gonna happen after that.
Well, sitting next to Alex Pereira, I met him in Austin at the UFC event, and I was with RDA, and Pereira came in. Dude, it's like it's a struggle for him to smile. And he's the nicest dude in the world. But man, when you look at him, you're like, this dude didn't wrap too tight. Like, but he's the nicest. I don't know if there's something clenched, like there's some sort of whatever, his smile muscle is messed up or whatever, but he's the nicest dude.
It's called trauma.
Yeah. Holding it in.
And he's like, no, I'm not opening up for anybody.
Yeah, exactly.
I had a question though, because you mentioned a lot and how comfortable you are in going just in the randomest spots in Mexico. And he tells me all the time too about like how comfortable he is in chaos. Is that something that you attribute yourself with? Because it seems like you're just so naturally used to all that stuff based on like your early childhood.
There's a couple things. It might get a little bit dark. So my childhood. So for example, I remember running away from preschool at 4 years old. Mm. My brother's 8 years older, so he was 12. He would always take me around the neighborhood. And I remember when I left preschool, I remember just walking out when they let the kids out. I didn't know because no one would tell me anything. Even so today, like my parents never really told me stuff or don't want to have my mind occupied because they know I'm busy with certain things and they know I'm going to put them first. Anyways, they didn't tell me I was supposed to stay at daycare. I didn't know this. So when they let us out to see the parents, I was like, oh, well, my parents aren't here. Well, they might as well be home. And I walked home a mile. Just imagine same size head, little petite guy. Walking home a mile in the ghetto. And the ghetto, when I say it, is we have the police cameras on every corner. So like they had that there just because there was drug dealings, this and that, where people would always get messed up. So me, I'm walking home looking like Dora the Explorer, having a good time, like saying hola everybody. And then I sat home, no one's home. And I was there for 3 hours. And I'm just kind of like, oh, well, they'll be here eventually. And some random white lady, never met in my life, given a white lady in like a very Mexican neighborhood comes up to me, and this is like blonde hair white lady. I know I'm very
yeah,
super Caucasian.
Yeah, super Caucasian. Like hello. And so she walked up and she goes, "Hey, I work for the preschool. I know your mom." I was like, "No, you don't." I know you. And she goes, "If you come to the preschool, I have ice cream." And I'm just like,
stranger danger.
I was like, what flavors? We have chocolate, we have vanilla, we have strawberry. I was like, I like strawberry. All right, I'll go with you. And so I went with her. Luckily, she worked at the preschool.
I was gonna say.
So I'm at the preschool, and my mom's like running up to me crying because they called her, let her know like, hey, we lost your child. She comes up to me crying. I was like, Mom, what are you crying about? Like, they have ice cream, And my dad's in the back, like trying to pull out the gun, because he wants to like shoot up everybody. He's like, you lost my kid, you're about to lose your life, type of thing. And it was just a crazy thing. So for me, I was used to just things kind of popping off and going through like random stuff. So I was always a random adventure. Plus, it wasn't that I wasn't happy being home, but because of my dad and I was afraid to get my ass kicked, I was like, well, I might as well be outside. So I naturally knew where to go and how to survive and do certain things. I was very street smart when it comes to just staying at people's places or say, I'm going to stay here tonight or whatever the case may be. But later on in life, like mid-20s, there came to a point to where like I lost the three main things I wanted in my life. At the time was, the UFC career. I got really demoralized, all this other stuff. I got cut from the UFC and I'm like, damn, what am I even doing this sport anymore? Then I had my father pass away. I did this sport for my father, and my father was my best friend towards the end of his life. And then at the same time, I was ending a 7-year relationship. I was engaged. So I was like, oh, damn, I lost everything I really worked my whole life for, especially with somebody for 7 years. You're like, that's kind of like almost half my life at that time.
Yeah.
Quarter of my life. So I'm like investing all this, and then all of it's gone. I'm like, all right, well, I got to, one, find some purpose, but then two, let me just go out and try. Let me just experience stuff that I didn't get to experience, at certain ages. And let me just have fun. So for me, I've kind of lost everything that I wanted most at that time. So it's not saying that I don't want any other things or I can't receive any of those things again. I for sure can. I got a great career. I definitely got people I talk to that, I can possibly move up relationship wise. And I got other people that I call father figures, but the fact is, in a sense, I lost everything I ever really wanted. So whatever I lose today, it doesn't faze me as much. So when it comes to things, it's like controlled chaos. What Kamaru Usman used to call my fights. Like, it's like if stuff bad happens, it honestly can't get any worse for me. So it is what it is. We'll figure out a way and just move on. Or I've already dealt with the worst. So whatever comes, it still sucks. It's still bad. It's not saying like, whatever. It's just like, well, all right, well, I guess I've already lived through this, so I know for sure I can live through that, so that's for me when it comes to going to certain places and doing whatever. Like I'm going to actually be in Guyana this weekend. I'm cornering some fighters, and I got 2 full days to just enjoy myself. So after I corner these fighters, I don't know where I'm going, but I'm going somewhere.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's becoming comfortable in chaos. I was the same way. It's funny that you say your fighting style, because my jiu-jitsu style, my fight style is similar. It's like controlled chaos. When I train now, jiu-jitsu or whatever, especially in gi, I'll close my eyes. I'll pull guard and close my eyes, and people are kind of tweaked out, and they're like, "Bro, you okay? Like, what do you?" Like, I'm so comfortable in that position, and I feel like I'm in more control at that point than I was as a child. So to me, like, what's the worst that could happen? Yeah. Same thing.
It's weird because when I was a kid, we kind of let go of all the big things that happened and made it small. Compared to like the small things, we made it ruin our day.
Exactly.
So it was very weird. Like for example, I've been like nagging at Augie for the fun of it. I lost like a $400 watch this week, and I'm like, dude, I swear I put it here. It's one of those like lost that like you have no clue how
where it is.
Compared to like, oh yeah, I left it at the gym. Yeah, no, it's gone. Like that's a loss where you're like, okay, I kind of figured the steps out. It's gone. This one's like, I have no clue where the hell my watch is. And so I always mess around. Augie will call me. I was like, you find my watch? He's like, what? No. I was like, oh, all right, I don't want to talk to you anymore. My life is over. It's just like, dude, I could always, inevitably buy a watch. But I'm just like, So the little things for me, I'm like, damn it. But the big things, I'm like, yeah, well, I
figure it out. Yeah. So let me ask you, I know you've had a couple of fights, and I'm going to jack this dude's name up. Nakusi. Can you say it? Nakusi? Woo, look at you, bro. I can't do it. So I know you guys have had a couple of fights pop off. Is there, I'm going to ask you the question that you probably get asked 1,000 times. Is there going to be a trilogy fight to settle the 1-on-1? Is there going to be a trilogy fight? What do you think?
I'm really hoping so. You know, for me, I remember Brave kind of put it on me when I won the split. I assumed that they didn't have guys kind of lined up at the bantamweight division yet. They're still trying to figure some stuff out, because now it's a stacked division where people are like, we all want to fight, and I'm just like, I don't know who am I fighting. And it was such a close fight. The first one, they're like, oh well, we want you to fight Nkosi again, and Nkosi was calling out the rematch too. So I'm like, wait, you're gonna pay me, you know, the same amount of money of me fighting anybody else to fight the same person that I've already beat? Yeah, okay, yeah, cool, I'll take it.
Yeah.
You know, and so I went into this next fight very carelessly, because I'm like, I already beat him. I felt comfortable in the fight. And I treated the second fight like a sparring match, where I'm like, hit me, I hit you, we'll have some fun. And as I believe the fight was slowly going my way, I get cut over my eye. And that's why, like, my eye is naturally always a little bit swollen, because I've had so much scar tissue here. And I'm like, damn it, you little flick. I'm like, you know, so it's like Mexicans with tortillas. Once I eat one little single carb, I go, oh, I just poof up. But now I'm like, okay, cool. Like, it's swollen, whatever. And then it just popped on one punch, and it's like flailing off. I'm like, okay, this is a lot of blood. I have to turn my face. And he was throwing elbows the whole fight. And I'm like, I'll be fine. But because now I'm changing my position, I left myself a little more susceptible. I took a nice clean elbow over the head. And if you can see, like, here's the cut here, went through my eyebrow. Over, and here's the one that went straight down.
Yeah, I see it. Yeah.
So the blood was all over my face, to where I'm like, okay, well, this really sucks. Because it's like, I was having such a fun time mentally. I'm like, I'm comfortable. Your punches don't hurt. I'm fine. Definitely being very egotistical, but too egotistical. And obviously I paid for it, to where when the second cut happened, my ego's like, oh, dude, we're in danger. All right, I got to go. And I was like, oh, yeah. Panic. You know, so I go in there, and I remember the doctors pulled me to the side, and they're like, yeah. And they're like, all of Brave is really close to me. So the doctors title fight, they're like, we'll let them continue. I was like, in my head, I was like, dude, stop the fight, because I can't anything, you know? And they let me continue. I was like, in my head, let me go one more minute. And if nothing happens, then, you know, I lost the fight, because it just doesn't make sense. I could not see it. You know, from the Midwest, it's like driving in the snow when you have ice on your windshield wipers. You can't, like, and there's nothing. It just makes it worse. Yeah. You know, they have bad windshield wipers and they're icy. It's like, this doesn't make sense at all. So now I'm driving with the window open. So for me, I couldn't see. I was like, well, it doesn't make sense to get knocked out. Like, I might as well just, you know, say no mas. And so I had to do the whole Roberto Duran, like, no mas, the no mas-chenko, like, and so when it came to me pridefully, I was like, yo, this sucks, because I went into this fight not really taking it seriously, and then I paid the ultimate price. I'd rather have been knocked out any day and be like, oh, dude, you got me, compared to, as a man, very pridefully, as a fighter too, going, I give up. And that's the way I look at it, you know? So for me, I'm mad as hell. And it's not at my opponent. It's just more of mad at my decision. So, like, I'm flying in some guy, Mike from Lazy Boy's team, and, you know, creating schedules here to where it's like, once I come back from Guyana, like, I'm working. If Brave gives me that trilogy fight, perfect case scenario. But if they don't, dude, I'm literally hurting anyone in my way. And I'm a very, very nice guy. So I will be sparring. Like, I've been sparring Mads Burnell. Mads Burnell is fighting the lightweight tournament. And him, and he, like, no one wants to spar him because of how big he is. Me, I'm not trying to swear, but it's like, I don't care at all. Like, I'm trying to hurt anyone in front of me, you know? So it's a very different mindset. It gave me a lot of fire, you know, under me again, which is a very nice thing, because I think this is gonna be my 41st or 42nd fight. Oh, wow. So I've had a lot of freaking fights. There was a reason I said OG when I introduced you, because you are. There's not many people, you and RDA, there's not very many people that have been doing it at the level over 40 fights. That's
insane. Yeah.
With that being said, I'm just trying to enjoy. That's why I say it, one fight every time, because I never know. Like, for example, excuse me, I have these cuts now. I have a lot more scar tissue, especially with this eye. So it's like, my opponent, or my last opponent, Nkosi, is very bony. So he's Israel Adesanya. It's literally Israel Adesanya. Wish fight. And he's just very bony. So when he hits me, it's like, it doesn't hurt, but I feel the sharpness of the bone.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm cut now. Just imagine if I face him in a trilogy or anyone else, I have to 100% be there. Because if I take one good shot on my forehead or my eye, it might cut all over again or open up even worse. And there goes the fight. So that's why a lot of people are telling me, oh, you want to retire at 36 or 40 or whatever the case may be. I was like, as long as my body could reasonably make it there, for sure. I've been doing this sport since I was 4 years old, so I'm not saying it's all I know how to do, but I know how to wake up and train and do all the hard work as I usually have been doing for 27 years. So you tell me I can't do it anymore. It's like, okay,
what
this
now?
is very
What now? Look, it's like that meme where they say, "What do I do with my hands now? What do I do with my hands now?" Yeah,
literally slowly coming up.
Yeah.
So the fact is, it's like that's why I'm slowly transitioning to coaching and helping fighters and trying to create little businesses on the side. So because getting punched in the face doesn't last forever. And I mean, you hear these crazy stories where people get hurt, brain dead, injured. I've had multiple injuries too. So like, it's funny actually. This, I don't know if you see my middle finger, it's a little fat.
Yeah.
So my middle finger, I just randomly dislocated. I was rolling around with Cody Garbrandt. He shot him for a takedown. We scrambled, and I heard a click, and my finger felt weird. And I was like, what the hell is that? And out of nowhere, I'm punching him, and I'm like, pop it back in. And I just kept punching him, while sparring. And then later on the day, I went to spar again because I'm like, it's fine. I'll just block. But I keep on forgetting, like, people have to hit you physically when you block. And I had to get my finger readjusted again. So my finger popped out, I think, like 3 or 4 times to where now it's just fat. Like I can't even straighten.
Look, you see this one right here? Same thing. And look, it slides side to side. I hip toss. Yeah. I hip toss.
I just need a girlfriend. That's it. I just need a girlfriend.
So look, let me ask you this. I know you got a long day ahead, so we'll break it off on this. You've accomplished a lot of things coming from where you've come from. All the statistics and it's crazy how much alike after this conversation we are. Every statistic probably said we should be dead, in jail, or God only in prison. God only knows who, what, when, where, why. But you've accomplished a lot of things. There's a lot of people that look up to you and appreciate you. If today, and this is going to be deep, so I want you to think about it for a second. If today was your last day and you had to take your last breath, what is it that you would want people to remember Shorty for?
So I'm going to answer it. But with that being said, every day is my last day. That's how I live my life. So Lazy Boy actually gave me an intervention when I was in Mexico because he's like, dude, you need to sleep. That's usually my problem. As I'll stay out. I could be just staying up in the house doing nothing, but I'm always doing something.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So every day is my last day because I'm trying to be as productive as I possibly can. And it's not just productivity with my business or my phone, or just I'm trying to be as social as possible because I've lost many, many people in my life. Very sporadically, you just never know.
Yeah.
Where I'm trying to hang out with many people and trying to give my time because it's almost like every time I see people, it's my final atonement, like Vegeta, or right before he gives himself up. It's like I want you to have the best day possible with me. So when I leave, and if I don't ever come back for whatever reason, I die or I just don't legit come back to this actual space or see you again, you have the best memory or best time. So for me, I live my life with you ever seen the movie Death of a Salesman, or the play Death of a Salesman?
Yeah.
It's basically, there's one salesman who's like, no one really likes, and by the end of the movie, he dies and his worst fear comes, no one goes to his funeral. But in the beginning of the movie, he's envious because there's one salesman that
everybody wants to go see. Yeah.
Sell stuff to them, but like everyone loves that. His funeral was packed, blocks long, stuff like that. Like, that's my goal, to have my funeral that way, but not be in a sad moment. Just more of like, man, this guy, he was just fun. Like no matter what, he was the light in the room. And specifically that day when I go, maybe the light dims a little bit, but after that, his light will always still be around. Like I want to be remembered as Akira Toriyama. Like, man, he left all this stuff. There's always stuff to remember him by. And even just his moral code, man, this is something to at least take some 2 cents and live by it a little bit. So for me, I live my every day like it's my last day. And that's why I try my best to help as much as possible. I try to go out as genuinely as possible and just live free. And I'm hoping that everywhere I go, I could be the Robin Williams and go, man, I face all this depression. I don't want you to be depressed as I was. So I'm going to try my best to make you laugh. So, it's like, man, this guy was always the light in the room. And no matter what, you felt his energy.
Well, I'll tell you, I don't know what you're gonna.
Well, I feel it, man, dude. Like that's crazy. Well, one, how much you guys are alike is insane, and I really appreciate that because I didn't grow up with that at all. In case you can't tell, so it's just interesting hearing like how you've managed to translate all that energy, all that trauma, that stuff you've seen growing up, and made the person that you are. Because I can't even tell like how much that's helped the younger generation, all the fighters that you're working with, because you're probably saving lives, like not only just like their day to day, but just sharing your story. It's just helping them down the line, and then the ripple effect of their families that they help too.
And for me, feeling it from the heart, I'm appreciative because, like I said, when you come from where we've come from, or you come from chaos, you go through most of your life not feeling normal. You feel odd. You feel different. And when I hear somebody and see somebody, you have such a bright energy about you. You've touched me even in this, 1 hour conversation on a whole different level in a spectrum. And so whether you fight another fight or never fight again, or whatever you choose to do, you've got peace, love, and admiration for me. And if you ever need anything from me, it's all love, and I'm one phone call or text away.
Well, I appreciate it, man. Same here. I'm always trying to. I don't know if you guys know or have seen on my story every single day, every weekday. I actually put a mental health post out.
Yeah.
It's always a different. It could be about love. It could be about breakup. It could be about sacrifice, achieving your goals, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
But I try to hit on topics because you never know what people are going through. And maybe, just maybe, one of my posts might resonate to somebody. Even though it might be traumatic, they're like, damn, this guy's going through the exact same problem. Or whatever the case may be. So it's not me posting out like I'm going through this situation at that time. Maybe I've gone through it before, or I know someone going through it. So maybe I'm going to put that out there without them knowing, and, kind of, because, man, we've all gone through a breakup. We've all gone through loss. We've all gone through certain things. Just we all keep it to ourselves sometimes. So, we're, again, the things that you say are so the same script of what I say. I do the same, and it's that I could be that light to save one person, or have one person look at me and say, if he went through all of that and he chooses to be a light and to help other people I don't do anything for financial gain. I do it out of love and admiration for people. And so again, I respect it. And if you didn't already have a fan in me, which you did, you've got an even bigger fan in me. So we will go ahead and sign off, guys. Go follow Jose Shorty Torres. Very inspirational guy. Go give him a follow. We love you guys. And as he said, mental health matters. If you ever need anything, let us know. And we are signing off. We will see you guys next week.